GitHub is a developer platform that allows developers to create, store, manage, and share their own code. It uses Git, which is software that provides version control. But GitHub actually does provide you a way to share static HTML websites using something called GitHub Pages. Let me show you how easy it is to create and host your own website on GitHub. The first thing you need to do is have a GitHub account. Just simply go to github.com and you can see that there's this sign in button right here. If you already have an account, sign in there. If you don't, sign up. Once you've either created your account or logged in, the next step is to create a repository. And we're going to start from scratch here. We're going to create a new repository. Before I do that, I want to show you something. Let me just go to visit someone else's GitHub account and show you how theirs works. And then we can duplicate what's happening here. Now here I am on Esri's GitHub account. And inside of their account, I've searched on a particular repository name. And if you're not aware what a repository is inside of GitHub, it's kind of like a folder for your project. It's where you put all your code. Now, there's a special repository, and that repository needs to be named exactly your username. In this case, it's the Esri account, so esri.github.io. And if you use this as a URL, you actually end up at a website. And that website, as you can see here, is actually hosted in GitHub. So this is really easy to do. This is what GitHub Pages is. So this website, if I go to this repository, the repository actually is exposing the entire website. So now it's kind of like a code view. Inside of GitHub here, what you're actually doing is kind of looking like at the code or the file explorer view of it. So the github.com/Esri, and then the repository name is esri.github.io in this case. What this is showing is the actual files associated with the site. And in GitHub, there is this README file associated with it, and you can see that's right here as a file, and that contains this information here. That's a markdown document, and I'm not going to cover markdown documents in this video. So this website starts here, index.html. And I can prove that by going back to here and typing in /index.html, and you can see it opens up the same file. So I can go into this document and see its code inside of the GitHub website, and then I can see the resulting page associated with it in GitHub Pages, in this case, by navigating to that same place. So this is a special website. You only get one of these per account, and it's your account name.github.io. But there's another type of an account. Let me show you that one. Now, another type of Pages account, it's not really an account, I guess it's a repository, is this. And you can see the URL from here. It looks very similar to the old one, but now we're looking at my account. So seanmflemingc.github.io. And then we have a / which is a folder in the web world. And this folder then contains index.html. Now, this folder name, in this case, web demo, is actually a repository. And I've already set this one up. And you can see that repository right here. So you can see web demo is the repository name, and I have the content in this folder. This is the second type of way to host a website inside of GitHub. Now, let me show you the first way, and then we'll dissect this one, and you can see the difference between the two. So we're going to start this from scratch, because right now, if I get rid of this portion, you'll see I get a 404 error, meaning nothing is found if I go visit this location. That's because I don't have a repository hosting this yet. I have to create that. So again, logged into GitHub, all you have to do is go and create a new repository. And in here, this is what is really important. The repository names have to be very specific. And I have to select the name exactly of what my username is. So Sean M. Fleming C in this case. And then I have to add .github.io github.io. And what this will do is create a repository and a GitHub page for that URL. This is the only one that does that in your account. All the others, you have to do in a different way. That's why I'm saying this way is special. So this is going to end up being at this location versus you saw that second one, which was web demo. So this one has a folder. This is a different repository. So we're going to make this work by going through this. Now the description is optional. It has to be a public site. GitHub always makes these public. I recommend creating a README. It makes things easier in a moment. And you can choose a license if you need to specify if it's like open source or something. Then you can go ahead and create the repository. And what that's going to do is start the repository. Now, during this repository creation, what it's also going to do is create a GitHub Pages account. And you can see that if I go to Actions right here, you can actually see it building it. There's a time delay between what you save inside of the file version of GitHub, the github.com website, and what shows up on the web in the github.io side of things. So until this is done, you're not going to be able to see something in this page. It will be not found. If I get this, you'll still see not found. So this has to be a green checkbox. So we'll wait for that to finish. Takes a couple of minutes. And there we go. We've got the green checkbox. It's done. If I go back to this and I hit refresh, I now actually see that README document, which is why I wanted to include it. So that README document is automatically translated. Go back to the repository here and put in there. And we can edit this README document. Again, I'm not going to go through what Markdown is, but we'll just commit a change here quickly. And it has to go through that whole process again to publish it. So you're going to see this up here going through. It took 57 seconds before. It'll probably take about the same amount of time again. And there we go, 47 seconds. You can go back to this. I can hit refresh. And now you'll actually see the content of that readme.md placed in here. So already I have a web page, but as you can see, it's not really a web page. It's a Markdown document. But if I go and look at the source code of this page, you'll notice it actually is HTML. That's what GitHub Pages is doing. Is it's converting that Markdown into an HTML document. But you could actually host HTML in here as well. So let me show you what that looks like. So back here, we'll go back to the main repository page, and we're going to add a new page inside of here to be able to create that. Inside of github.com, what I need to do is add a new file. And I'm going to actually create a new file from scratch here. You could have created a file locally on your computer. You need to enter a name of the file, and in here, you're just going to name it whatever you'd like. So if I'm just going to name this demo.html, just as a demo. The next thing that I do is go grab some HTML code that's been pre-built. I'm just going to go to W3 Schools and copy this code out, and I'm going to paste it in here. So now we have some code. We can commit those changes. Yes, I'll commit that change. And now it gets committed. You can see demo.html is being created in that folder. Okay, so again, we'll go back to Actions, and we'll see it getting processed right here. And it'll take about a minute again to be able to finish. And there we go. It's finished. We can go back to here, and we'll hit refresh. But you'll notice nothing changes. And that's because this is still trying to open up the default page. And because there's no default HTML page, it's still showing me the readme.md. But if I go / here and enter the actual file name that I created, it'll actually show that file. So this web server is there. And let's just go back to the main page here. You can see demo.html is here, and it's there. So I can actually host web pages inside of this. Now, what I'm going to do is replace this Markdown document so that this is the file that opens. And we have to rename this file or create a new file with a very specific name to do that. That's right here, edit this file. And you can see here, we're just going to name this one index.html. .html, and we'll say commit the changes. Now we'll go back to the main directory here and list the files. Now you can see I have a readme.md and an index.html. So if I go back to here, if I move this off and hit refresh, you can see it's still opening the markdown document. Remember, it does take a minute to process it. If you go to actions, we can actually see it processing it. So it's still in progress. We'll have to wait for that to finish, and we get a green checkbox before we can actually go check it out. And there we go. So if I go back to here and hit refresh, now it's that web page. So GitHub Pages allows you to host these pages in there. Now, if you're curious, does that readme.md file still exist? It does, and you can actually enter the name, but be careful. GitHub is case sensitive. And so I can still open that file, as you can see here, but now it shows it a little bit weirdly. Obviously, it's showing it as just the raw text. Now you might be wondering how you can add other types of files like images into your website. It's actually really easy. So inside of add file, you can upload files. And from here, you can actually just drag and drop files. And this will process those files and upload them. Just be careful again, GitHub is case sensitive. So you can see my uppercase S here. I'll commit that. And what it does then is it places that file on here, and that means I can access it. Again, once GitHub Actions finishes pushing the file from the GitHub editing site, we'll call it, the repository itself, over to Pages. And with it, the green checkbox, I can go back to here, and I can just enter the name of that file. So it's 747sean.jpg, and it shows up. So that's an easy way to be able to get at it. Now, if you want to make reference to this file inside of a web page itself, that's easy as well. Let's go edit this document, and we'll just add in the text here. Let's just add it at the end here, image source equals, and you just need to specify the source of the image. And again, case sensitive, 747sean.jpg, and you should have an alt. There we go. And once that's committed, it of course will push over to the actual copy from GitHub, the editing site, to GitHub Pages. Once it's done, it'll be available live on the end website. And then it'll be able to be navigated without this. So we can just keep hitting refresh on this until it comes back if we're impatient. Tip, you can actually hit Shift on your keyboard, then press the refresh button to force it to refresh. So if you're not seeing the changes in here, that's a way to tell your browser, don't show me the cached version, go get it from the actual website. But again, until this is actually a green checkbox, it won't be available. As you see, it's been taking me about a minute to get there, and there's my image showing up. So this is the main site for your account. You get one of these, and it's always in the GitHub username .github.io. You can't change this part. It has to be your username that you've signed up for with GitHub. But you can add subdirectories under this, which are linked to repositories. So let me show you how the other one I was showing you earlier is set up. Okay, so let's go back into my repositories here. So here we are on web demo, my repository. And you can see that there is an index.html inside here. And if you remember, you could access this by specifying the repository name and then the file name. So in here, so the repository name was web demo, and then the file name was index.html. It shows up. If you are keen, you'll notice that I'm using the index.html name again. That is the default. So technically, I don't even need to specify that. It will open. And another kind of weirdness of GitHub, you can actually just specify index and it'll even open. But I don't recommend doing that. I recommend including the .html just to make it more clear that it's an HTML document that you're looking at. So this file that's in here is shared as a website as well, but not every repository is automatically shared as a website. So you get that base one, which is your username.github.io, and then any other repository you have can also be shared in GitHub Pages, but you have to go and set it up manually. So let me show you how that is done. Under Settings, in the bottom here, you'll see Pages. Under Pages, you need to specify where it's coming from. So in this case, we're going to deploy it from a branch, and then you have to pick the branch that is going to be used. Typically, if you're not using the repository functions in GitHub, Git effectively, you only have one main branch. You'll just have main here. So just select main, and then select the root folder or a subfolder if you're using that as your website. And then you just say go. Mine's already done, so it's just going to work. There's no save button. But if I made a change, I'd have that save button. And then it will use the actions to copy and deploy your site that you've chosen over to GitHub Pages and make it live once you get the green checkbox, and it will be available. So that's how you use GitHub Pages to share both any repository in your account, but also that hidden feature of that main repository where it's your username.github.io. Hopefully you find that useful. Happy coding.